Okay, sorry, I missed the signal somewhere along the way. Sorry, they're frozen in space. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dry Eye Happy Hour. I'm Rebecca at the Dry Eye Foundation, and Aiden is on the other side of my wall here, the office. If you're new to Dry Eye Happy Hour, it's just all about conversations and connecting with people who understand what this journey is like. There's a place where we get to pool our experiences and learn from each other's experiences and encourage each other through this. Sometimes we have just simple support group meetings on Fridays, and sometimes we have panel discussions. And today's is panel discussion specifically focusing on nighttime dry eye. We're going to overlap a teensy little bit with our last panel, which was recurrent erosions. But it's mostly going to be focused on just how we deal with the night aspect of dry eye. Before anything else, I just want to give a big shout out to Cindy Edwards, who has just put so much work into making these things happen. And she's the one that's found people to be part of the panels, and I just really, really appreciate that. So thanks to Cindy. We have today Sean and Annabelle and Judy, and we may or may not have Justin shortly. And Judy's been with us in the past. Oh, there he is. Hi, Justin. So Judy was one of our very first panelists, and Justin's been on a panel before as well, and Sean and Annabelle are new to us. So I'm going to have everybody just introduce themselves, and then we'll get our discussion going. I usually forget this, but I'm gonna just put, where's the little chat thing? I'll put the little introductory questions in the chat just to have them handy. Let's see. Sean, how about you start us off?
I live in Minnesota. I'm actually drinking some water right now. And I was going to say, it disappeared for a little bit. I didn't get all the questions. But you know, in my dry journey right now, I'm maintaining. I'm always looking to improve. As everybody in the panel knows, some days are better than others, and you get a hot streak of really nice days, and then you have one day and everything falls apart. Eye drops that I used last. I'm on the Refresh Plus strain, and I've used that for many, many years. And I really haven't tried anything else besides that first foray into the thing of what worked and what didn't. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Just one more. So how long have you been dealing with this, and what was the cause?
2007. I had a stem cell transplant for leukemia when I was 15. And so about 6 years out of transplant, I noticed my eyes started getting really dry. And I mean, I never really got the correct, like everything, what the cause was, radiation or the graft versus host disease that I'm dealing with, or just staying up late. Maybe it's all three, but it's definitely factored into how I treat my disease right now and the kind of outlook. Yeah.
Right. So possibly GVHD. Another question there too.
Yeah, at least for keeping unfit formation. Yeah.
Great. All right, Judy, let's move on to you.
Hi, everyone. Judy from Canada, from Halifax, Nova Scotia, northeast of Boston, hanging out in the Atlantic Ocean. I guess I've been dealing with dry eye for 6+ years. That has been identified, but I think it was before then. I am drinking water, as I should, all the time. Where did mine come from? Well, it was a double eye infection that was treated, and I still had problems afterwards. But so that was after that was identified. But before then, I had trouble focusing. And I think I just went through, I was starting menopause. I'm female. I always had a lot of sensitivities like allergies. And I used antihistamines to control those for a good 15 years. So we don't really have a cause, and I just don't produce tears, probably never will. But also realize I have logophthalmus, or however you pronounce that, where my lids don't close, and I get blepharitis bouts off and on. Right now, I'm in a relatively calm state. Retired. A lot of those allergens sort of situations have been mitigated, changed my diet for the most part. And right now I'm using TheraTears. I do prefer Clinitis Soothe, but I have to get that from the UK. So sometimes I use ointment at night, but that's kind of it for me.
Great, thanks, Judy. All right, Annabelle, we would love to get to know you.
Hi everyone. I live in New York, but I was saying to the others earlier, you can hear I'm not from here. I'm from England, but I've lived here for the last 6 years. I'm also drinking water. I've taken a little bit of time out of my work day, so I'm technically still on the clock. So yeah, water for me. In terms of how long I've had dry eye, I feel it sort of wasn't as bad at the beginning, but has sort of got worse in the last couple of years, and especially this past year. And it's been for about 4.5 years total. And as far as I'm aware, it's because I had PRK surgery in early 2017. I'd never had a single problem with my eyes prior to the surgery. It sort of started off slower with erosions overnight, and then the sort of dry eye during the day and more so in the evening kind of crept in more and more. And in terms of my eye journey now, I think I reached a bit of a kind of limit with it where I was like, right, I'm going full steam ahead. I am reading everything. I'm speaking to everyone. I'm having every appointment. I'm gonna try and do whatever it is possible to get this to a position where it isn't affecting my life so much. And so I'm on a multitude of treatments at the moment. In terms of what eye drops I actually put in my eye last, it was my second dose of loteprednol that I have to do twice a day. But in terms of eye drops that I use and things that I use throughout the day, I use the serum drops sort of between 6 and 8 times a day. I'm also on Regenerize, the amniotic eye drops. I use for lubricant eye drops, I use Fresh Coat at the moment, but I don't use them very often. I also use twice a day the Optimel Manuka honey eye drops that hurt like hell, but I'm a bit more used to them now. And I'm trying to think what else I use in the day. Lotemax ointment and Muro 128 ointment overnight, which I don't think I could live without, as well as supplements. And I'm also on doxycycline. So a bit of a mixture.
Okay, thanks. I'm just curious. So what motivates you to use the Optimel despite it hurting like hell?
Everything that I've read on it. Well, first of all, I'd say after the pain subsides, your eyes are really nice and watery, and it's like sweet relief for a little while. But everything that I've read on it says that it has sort of anti-inflammatory properties, and it sort of has all these wonderful properties of antioxidants that over time are supposed to help your overall surface eye health. And reduce dry eye over time. They say that if you're using it for 2 or 3 times a day, after around 2 or 3 months, you can start to see, in a lot of people, some improvement. I read a paper on, they did a trial, I think it was like 59 patients who had dry eye and tested out. I'll grab them actually. I'll see if my husband can grab my Optimal ones for me. And see, so I don't have to run away. So they're called Optimal. They are, I think they're created in, I think you can buy them now, you can get them on Amazon, I think, but you can, the UK and Australia and New Zealand, he'll run past them for me. But yeah, there's also a gel that comes with it that I have, but I haven't tried yet. I've been a little nervous to, just because the drops hurt. I wonder if anyone else has tried them. Thanks to my assistant. So here's the Optimal one, Optimal Manuka honey eye drops. It's honey eye drops. They're 98% Manuka honey. And if you read about the Manuka honey bush, it's quite fascinating about such a natural thing that is so sort of wonderful in its medicinal properties. And then there's the eye gel, which I haven't tried yet, but I'm trying to sort of build up a little bit of courage just because they really do hurt.
Thanks. All right. Thanks so much, Annabelle.
Of course.
Justin, how about you bring us up to speed on you and introduce yourself? Thanks for coming. Right.
Yeah, good to see you, Rebecca and Aiden. So hi, everybody. My name is Justin. I live in the Bay Area, California, right near Stanford. I actually need to go grab a beverage, but it's also in the middle of my workday. So probably go grab some tea or water. I've had dry out eye for probably 12 years now. It started when I was in my early 20s. And it's progressed pretty aggressively over the last 3-4 years now into my 30s. Where I'm at in my eye journey is, I think I was at where you are, Annabelle, maybe a year ago or 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago. And I just really kind of went, I'm a product manager and an inventor for a living. So I really just went like next level on, similar to you, delving into all the research. And I've seen 20 to 25 different eye doctors around the country, and have experimented on myself to the nth degree. And I'm actually even like inventing a new product for nighttime relief. Not gonna like self-promote or anything, but like I just think that experimentation is so important. And I think where I'm at now is some degree of like livability is maybe the best word. Because when I was at my worst, I couldn't even sleep for more than like an hour or two. It was pretty bad. So I'm sleeping well through the night. I wake up in the morning. Miro 128 plus goggles were like the aha moment for me. I wish I would have been tipped off to that 10 years ago. And the reason why my eyes are the way they are is because I used to think it was due to allergens, but I'm seeing a new guy at Stanford who's amazing. If any of you are in the Northern California area, I would highly recommend him. And he took like high-speed videography of my eyes blinking, and found that when I blink, I don't close my eyelids all the way. And even though I don't visibly sleep with my eyes open, he suspects that I have a small opening when I sleep, and when I blink, I don't evenly distribute tears across the surface of my eyes. So that has kind of built up over the years to create, severe dry eye symptoms. So I think now that I know that, I'm able to address it much more effectively. My combination of choice right now is nighttime Miro 128 and goggles, daytime. I was doing PRGF, which is another version of serum drops that supposedly have a higher percentage of growth. What are they called? Higher percentage of like growth cells or growth hormones. But it's very hard to get them. But I got lucky, and the guy that I see here in Stanford does that. But I didn't see a huge amount of benefit from those. So I just kind of stick to during the day, refresh advanced. That's kind of my go-to. And nothing else feels great to me during the days. I have been on a scleral like journey for over a year now. I've done 6 different scleral fittings with different doctors all around California. And I just did a mold of my eyes called iPrint Pro, which was actually pretty cool. We can talk about it later, but anyway, I digress. Yeah, I used Miro 128 and Refresh Advanced most recently. So that's my story.
Great. Thanks, Justin. And I love that you're working on something for overnight dry eye. I mean, heaven knows we need all the tools we can get for this. So yeah, I'd love to catch up with you offline. That's a point about where you're at with that. If you,
Yeah.
that'd be great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into our discussion here. And we're going to start with just, what is this like? What does it look like? Get a feel for some of the different patterns people experience this with this. So I know some of you are in a more stable place, some of you are in a harder place. When you were at your worst, specifically with overnight dry eye, I'd just like you to describe a typical night. What went on? How did you cope? What did it look like from kind of when you go to bed to when you get up in the morning? And anyone who would like to go first, just go ahead and raise your hand or start talking. Go ahead.
I can go quickly. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I didn't fully understand why my, symptoms were the way that they were, I think figuring out like the source or the root cause was like incredibly powerful and helpful. But I mean, I would wake up every hour or 2 hours feeling like somebody had taped my eyelids open with a fan like in front of my eyeballs, and they were like, or somebody had poured sand in my eyes. It was just excruciatingly painful, and I would have to keep refresh drops next to my nightstand. And then when I got into my more like experimental phase, I was like taping my eyelids shut. I remember when we talked, Rebecca, a while ago, I was taking like Tegaderm and, sealing my eyes shut, like doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And it still was horrible. And it ended up being that like I just needed that Mura 128 lubrication plus it pulls in moisture from your surrounding tissue. But I mean, it was horrible, painful, excruciatingly painful. And on top of that, like the lack of sleep obviously disrupts your day as well. So that was my experience.
Right.
I think I was going to jump in and just say, like, one of the things is I never really woke up, but what I remember is like, just for your mental health, you go to bed and there's no respite by just closing your eyes. And I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, can I just get like a few seconds where it doesn't hurt, right? And so that's when I was at my worst, because I wasn't doing anything to, because you're thinking, oh, it's just dry eye. You don't really realize it until you got it, right? It's one of those things. And so my eyes were just so awful through the day, during the night, even when I would go to bed, they would just hurt. Thankfully, I was able to sleep. I was able to eventually fall asleep. But like Justin said, I would wake up and I'd have to put in drops, or even worse, or not worse, but you wake up and your eyelids just stick to your eyeballs. You can't even move them. You're just kind of like peeling them off in the morning. And that, that definitely sets like your mood for the day, right? You don't wake up refreshed, you wake up grumpy, like scattered, I think that's also something that's just how you go to bed and how you get up from bed is just mentally how it kind of sets your days. You don't really get a break from it.
Yeah, I can fully empathize with that feeling. I think for me, so as things sort of go into the evening and on days where, the average day works, and as I said, the last few months haven't been great, I have a sort of level of what I'll use to sort of try and relieve it, though obviously some evenings you can do whatever, you might get a minute's relief or something, but that's about it. I found that one thing that has helped me in the evenings sometimes, sort of works maybe 70% of the time, is I had read quite a bit on this as well. You can obviously see I have a sort of bit more of a focus trying on, although I'm using all the sort of natural ones and not natural ones, is organic fresh pressed castor oil that you can get in eye drop form. And I'm sure some of you have used it before. When I put a drop of that in, it definitely feels a bit prickly and sort of a bit weird the first few minutes that you've got it in, and it takes quite a while to settle, more so than most eye drops, but it does sort of give you a bit of lubrication. I went through a phase where my eye doctor was suggesting, even though my husband had sort of checked my eyes at night, saying that my eyes might be slightly open at night. I've been, through all of those sort of things, and they're not. So I tried to test out this theory. So my body now knows if I've fallen asleep without Miro, it'll wake me up. I've clearly formed a habit with it. So often if I fall asleep without it, I'll only ever last maybe about an hour. And I've done that where I've sort of put eye drops in or castor oil or everything, so it's got enough lubrication. I'll fall asleep for an hour or so. My body clock will naturally wake me up because it knows it doesn't have the Miro in. And it's at that point, my eyes will be so dry, I can barely get to the bathroom to put the Miro in. And I often have to then put in a drop very, very quickly, because if I open my eye up, it'll catch. And obviously it's then excruciatingly painful. But it's at that moment where it's usually at its driest. So I have got to points where I've sort of reduced the amount of Miro I'm putting in my eyes, and I've been thinking, oh, brilliant, maybe I'll be able to wean myself off. But at the moment, it's sort of a lot, and I get very anxious sometimes if I've gone to bed and then with the Miro in, and I think, no, it's come out of my eye, it's not going to last, and then I'll have to go back. And if you get into sort of a vicious cycle of it, I've had one where I used a whole tube of Miro in one night, and I then broke down because it was just such a horrendous night. Sometimes it's under control, and as you can probably see, it's sometimes just debilitating to deal with.
For me,
Sorry. Go ahead. I was just gonna say the Miro, it's not cheap stuff either. Those are, $20+ a tube.
It's a lot. It's funny, I actually, from maybe a year and a half ago, I started collecting the empty ones, and I've got a bag, 2 bags actually, are just the empty ones collecting. And I wonder how I'm gonna be interesting to see how much money I've spent on it. It's insane.
Yeah, I go through a tube a week, I think, maybe a tube 2 weeks. I have to apply twice when I go to sleep, and then I always wake up around like 4 a.m. to go to the bathroom or something, and I have to reapply. It doesn't last me the whole night, but
right.
I put a huge glob in, like, full fingers worth of. So
yeah, it's funny, I haven't found another one. I tried the one that a lot of people in the UK use. I think it was known as Vita Pos, but then it's now changed to Hilo. And to me, that just disintegrated into a sort of oil almost instantly, and you get like a little drop here. So by the time I got back to the bed, I was like, there's nothing in my eye. There's no way I'll be able to survive the night. So yeah, Miro seemed to be the only one that was thick enough to sort of run through at least the majority of the night.
Sorry, Judy, I kind of cut you off a little earlier. Go ahead.
That's okay. We got a thing going. You got to go with it. For me, at my worst time, a lot of what I'm hearing, I've gone through. So at my very worst time, the way I went to bed was in a panic, because I knew what the morning would bring, and I would be peeling my eyes off, my lids off, my corneas. And when I found out what that meant, and that it caused erosions, etc., there was just even more panic. So some nights I didn't want to wake up. But what I did, the worst nights, my routine would be try to get to bed earlier, try not to use screens, do all the things, so vigilant about all the little things I knew. I never had sclerals and all the stuff. I just used basic things. I would close my apartment, my bedroom door, close the windows, put on 2 humidifiers on either side of my bed. This is before I knew that my eyes weren't closing at night. And I would sleep with the drops next to my bedside, and I would drink as much water as I could. And at some point I got the Canadian version of Vita Pos or whatever, the ointment. And I was shown how to use that. And I used to have a panic attack getting from my bathroom after I put it in to my bedroom because I couldn't see. And then wearing various kinds of goggles, and I couldn't see. I would have, what do you call it when you you're scared to be closed in, whatever.
Claustrophobic.
It was terrible for me. So claustrophobic, very claustrophobic. But that's how I got through that era, I guess. See if I've forgotten anything. But I used heat compresses. Also, when I woke up in the morning, like through the night, I'd wake up and have to put more drops in. And I've used all the different seals, like the saran wrap and all the different things some of you have mentioned. And in the morning when I would wake up, I would, I'd have to put the drops in before I opened my eyelid, like you were saying, Annabelle. And then I'd rest. I'd have to rest myself. So I'd have to get up earlier to go through this routine before I could get to work and feel half normal. And I would put in drops every 15 minutes or so before I could get to the point where I could drive and get to a workplace that was about 20% humidity. And just put drops in. Like my day routine had as much to do with my night as my night did. So have I forgotten anything? The loss of sleep, the panic, the anxiety, the desperation, the thought that this will never end. And not knowing at that point, I didn't know I did have erosions, but there was nobody had any solutions. I'm not in an area where I have access to any extremely good doctors. And my ophthalmologist said he'd never seen anyone ever get better. So that was where it was. So that's the worst.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I'm hearing echoed a lot here is the sensation of having your eyelids stick to your eye. Is that has everybody here?
Mine, it didn't feel like sticking. It felt, I can only describe it as feeling like a paper cut on your eyes. And the first time it happened, felt like someone had stabbed me in the eye. I usually wake up about 3 to 5 seconds before, about 5 seconds, I'd say, before it's about to happen, but my eyes are still closed. And then you get that horrific panic of adrenaline going through your body, where you know that there's nothing you can do. If you open your eye, it's gonna tear it. If you keep your eyes closed, it's gonna tear. And you've just got about 5 seconds to prepare for excruciating pain. And the anticipation, it happening is awful, but to me, like we had sort of said earlier, the effect that it has on your mind with the anticipation is so awful. It's that sort of, your whole body flashes with this kind of panic. So that's a huge element of it for me. My eye doctor seems to be, I don't know how many times he's asked me and how many times I've said no as firmly as possible, but and I understand his logic, but he has said, in order to assess the erosions, he needs to see them, even though I've come in as soon as possible on a day where they've happened, like rushed in. If it's happened at 7 a.m, I've been the first patient in line. And he always complains that his slit lamp isn't sophisticated enough. And I know that the epithelial layer is obviously very thin. So sometimes it hurts a lot, but you can't necessarily see it. But he has said, what I need you to do is just go to bed with your eyes dry and force your eyes to have an erosion, and just do that a few times so that I can keep assessing it. And I was like, have you any idea what you're asking me to do? Why don't you just like, what? I don't think you understand the anticipation, the panic and the pain. And the last one I had was so big, and it was in both eyes at the same time. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. And I don't know how much more serious I can get when I answer him to say how much it's pushed me to the point of despair. I don't know how much more serious I can let him know how dark it's got. And I said, and if you truly understood that, I don't think you'd be asking me to do that voluntarily. So yeah, it's really a horrible thing.
Have no words for the idea of asking someone to trigger an erosion.
I don't get it.
Wow.
Yeah, he's asked me repeatedly.
Gosh.
Maybe get a, maybe fire that.
I am. I've moved on, but it's just, yeah, I don't know how many more times you can be like, that's a hard no, like, and really be quite serious. And he just keeps coming back to it. Also, he'll do, you know, there's been a few times where I've tried, say, a treatment, say 4 times. It clearly hasn't worked. Not by my own determination either. Sometimes it's, you know, they'll run their necessary tests, they'll take pictures, they'll do all of that and quite clearly see it hasn't worked. And then he'll ask me to do it again for like a 5th time, maybe like 6 months later. And I'm like, not sure you understand, if I've tried it sort of 4 times, done the necessary course and it hasn't worked, it's time to move on to the next thing. It's not responding. So that's, I don't know if other people have found that, but a lot of my sort of infuriation with this is battling, I think, with doctors, doing my own research, things that they don't seem to be. I was saying to Rebecca privately earlier, with the Optimal, which by all means go and read about it, and you can read about it from people obviously who have used it themselves, but you can also read about it from eye doctors who've taken the time to research it and do trials and all of the rest of it. And I said it to my eye doctor, and his response was, well, I don't know why you're going and getting like a jar of honey and putting it in your eye. And it's like, no, this is a, you know, certified sterile eye drop, and it's proven and it's worth a try and all the rest of it. But everything seems to be, you know, it's, I don't know how it's managed very well. And I've struggled finding a doctor that is up to speed with, you know, ever-changing technologies and medications and natural remedies, and also that is looking, I think, to help with the root cause of it and not just the symptoms of it. So that's been my difficulty.
So talking of finding doctors, and I think this is a universal problem in dry eyes, finding expert care, finding sympathetic care, finding so many different things that we need from our doctors. I'm curious for all of you, to what extent you've been able to get medical help from your doctors, specifically for the night aspect of dry eye, as opposed to dry eye treatment in general.
Other than Miro.
Wow.
Other than Miro is being suggested. That's it.
I think I want to say I'm basically on my own. Although my optometrist that I found after a few years, he seems up on things, but he doesn't offer anything new. So I was using the ointment, Vitapause, well, Canadian version of that, and from Hilo, and I was finding it so sticky. And I said, you know, I tried. I didn't have it, and I just used my drops, and I said it seemed to work okay, and my eyes were less sticky and irritated. And he said, "Well, try that for a while." That's what I get. It's like, we got 2 tools, and you use them whichever way you want. So I sort of gave up asking for help, because from the ophthalmologist and my optometrist and my GP is useless. So there is only what I find on the Dry Eye Foundation, you know, thank God, the Facebook group, and listening to watching and seeing what other people are using, and then coming up to my own conclusion and trying it.
Right. Wow. Sean, anything to add to that?
You know, the only thing I guess I would just like kind of mirror what Judy said is I have a very sympathetic doctor, and they do, you know, a good job. It just, I think a lot of times is, you know, what's new, you know, and there isn't always something new, right? And sometimes people can't know everything, you know, except for you guys, it seems like. You know, so that's the one thing, is being able to like see what's new. What can I try, if that makes sense? You know, it's unknown unknowns. Some stuff that we don't know exists out there. I didn't know about sclerals for 5 years, even though I went to a bunch of different doctors. So, you know, it's kind of one of those hit and misses if you have a good doctor and, you know, I guess zeroed in on the community. And even then they might not know everything. So the dry eye groups and dry zones, like where I find a lot of stuff.
I think so many of the practical tools we use can only come from within our community. The doctors just don't know. I mean, it's the exception rather than the rule that they would know about any kind of specialty products for use at night or things like that. An awful lot of people that I've talked to over the years, when their main struggle is with night dry eye, the most that they've gotten from their doctor is, use ointment or tape your lids shut. And
yeah, that's basically it. Yeah,
not necessarily enough.
I see it.
I think like most physicians calibrate in terms of their experience and expertise and learning and all of that to the majority of the population, like the 80% of the population, that they can resolve whatever the problem is. And obviously we fall probably not even to the 20%, probably the 1% of the population, like the utmost extreme cases. And I've just found that there are, like I've said, I've seen 20 plus doctors over the years, both optometrists and ophthalmologists. And I've only found this one here in the Bay Area because he's a part-time researcher at Stanford. Is he willing, he actually finds like my issues like interesting, and he like goes out of his way to pursue like reading papers on it and thinking about sort of like a creative strategy. But most physicians, not to knock physicians, but I kind of can relate to what you said, Annabelle and Shruti and Sean, about like they have a dry eye checklist, and if you've exhausted it, they'll just go back and restart it, because that's just like what doctors do. They have this framework where they work through their checklist, and that's what they know how to do. So yeah, I think like once you recognize that like you're off the grid at this point and you got to find your own path. Like I spent 10 years exploring and trying to understand dry eye, and not one doctor ever mentioned Neuro 128, which just blows my mind. Not one doctor mentioned goggles. I have this new kind of framework that I use. I think it's like a 3-pronged strategy for dry eye. You need to get your nighttime under control, your daytime under control, and your neuropathic pain under control. And if you can target each of those 3 things, you can bring the threshold down. And for me, nighttime is Neuro 128 and goggles. Daytime, I'm really trying to get sclerals to work, because I think that's the best solution for my issue. And neuropathic pain supposedly was supposed to be the PRGF for the regenerative properties. I'm going to look into the Manuka honey. Thank you, Annabelle. That was a good suggestion.
I will just give you the advice, and it took me a couple of tries to do it. I'm sure you'll figure out once you've used it a few times, but just to give you the advice, like put the drop in slowly. You obviously see it hanging before it goes into your eye, and be prepared. So the moment it goes into your eye, close your eye. There's no way you'll be able to keep it open. Close your eye. You'll feel this sort of like the beginning of the burning pain. It really is like it's more than anything I felt before. That will subside. When it subsides, quickly open your eye and close it again. You'll feel the burn again for a second time. Do it again. You might get a little burn on the 3rd time, and then you can open your eye. Just don't attempt to keep your eye open when you put it in, because it really, really does hurt. So just be prepared to close it immediately, and then slowly open it and close it again. Just advice. The first time I did it, I was like, oh my God, what new hell is this? So, but it really, yeah. And I've had to make sure, like at night time, if I'm putting stuff, I've had to put it to the back on a different shelf, just in case I mistake it, because it's the same shape as a couple other ones, and you do not want to mistake it for one of your more friendly, like non-stinging eye drops, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, totally. And I think, I guess more specifically with even like nighttime though, like I can't speak highly enough of figuring out what ointment works. Yeah. I mean, if other people are watching this recording, like what ointment works for you? Neuro 128 may work for me or Annabelle, but it may not work for you. And I've tried all the petroleum gel ointments, like Refresh PM, I don't know, like there's
This day.
5 different types on the shelves at CVS, and I even like A, B, C, D, E tested all of them. Like one night I would try this one at 20% petroleum, 80%, whatever the other ingredient is. And then there's another one 50-50. There's another one that's like 1090, and I tried all of those. And so you just really have to like kind of experiment and acknowledge that it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but eventually you'll kind of land on what feels good for you.
Totally.
Who here is using any kind of goggle or just something over your eyes? Plastic wrap goggle. Okay, we got 3. All right.
I
Anybody
have
want
a
to
pair, but I found it very, very hard for it to stay in shape. So to stay in place. I'd be really interested to know which ones you guys use.
Judy, talk to us about yours. Your tranquilizer.
When I go out with these and my mask, I'm fully protected. No, this is, I can't remember what they're called. I think these are tranquilized.
Yeah.
And they have the pad that comes out. You'll notice I have surrounded it in saran wrap. And I'll tell you why. So those are kind of a lifesaver for me when I realized that I wasn't closing my eyes at night fully, when we realized that quite a long time in. And I used eye seals and I used swimming goggles and I tried every type. The biggest thing, Annabelle, is the fit. And I have a small head. There's not much in there, but there's, and I'm a side sleeper. So everything I was doing with the seal or goggles, they were actually opening and I didn't realize it. So it was like a constant battle. The eye seals were pretty good and I got them kind of small, but the straps broke repeatedly. So and also because my head's small, the space between goggles, like between here, is a problem. They really need to be this close for me. Okay. So it's a challenge. You have to, really have to try them. But I found these great because the cushion keeps my eyelid closed. So once I put in an ointment or a drop, it ain't coming out. And there's no like dry air coming in because the foam pressure. The tricky part is I have slippery hair. So this band that's supposed to sit nicely on the back of your head doesn't, it keeps slipping up and down my head. So it gets looser through the night. So that is the worst problem with them. I can't keep them. I have to keep tightening them. So that's really the only problem is you move around at night, they might open up slightly, but the foam at least keeps keeps the gaps from opening. And I used these for a long time and I'm cheap. So I probably should have, got new pair or new inserts, whatever, but I didn't. But I developed my eyelids were cracked and dry and horrible. I didn't know what it was. And I guess it was because the foam was irritating my eyes after much use. So what I did was I just put saran wrap on it. So I can take the saran wrap off and put a fresh saran wrap on it. And then that's completely clean and sterile. And that seems to work for me. I don't know how I'd sleep without them. I would panic if I didn't have that.
And can I ask with all of you actually, I don't know if you guys sleep on your side, I tend to, but do you not find that it's sort of almost, if they're in position and you put them on your side, that it kind of pushes them up? That was my problem. I'll show you the ones that I have.
It does, but because it's a foam, you go fairly tight. And then if you do go sideways or whatever, they're still pretty much secure.
That's good.
I was going to say, Annabelle, like I use the Manta mask as well.
Yeah.
And I use the cooling ones at night.
Okay.
Like I'll take them out of the freezer and I put them there. But you are right. I have like this, not like OCD, but just kind of like this particular thing of where like, are they pressing evenly? And I'm like, okay, am I not getting help if they're not pressing evenly? Yeah. And so I usually sleep on my back, but this is gonna look ridiculous, but you use like the inside of your elbow to like press it down. So, but then I'm like, oh, yeah. So no, I definitely do that, like you said.
Yeah.
I tried all of them, and that's what I would recommend. Order all of them and then return the ones that don't work. And try them all. I've tried Tranquilize, they're too big for me. I also like to sleep on my side, and they just kind of like, I couldn't get used to them. I've tried the smaller ones. I've tried the Onyx, which are like small silicone. They almost look like swim goggles. And what worked the best for me are the Eye Seals 4.0, which are just straight up silicone. But I am lucky in that it fits my face. It may not fit your face. There's no like adjustment to it. So it's like it either works or it doesn't. But the reason why I like the Eye Seals silicone is because I can sleep on my side and it just kind of compresses and I don't barely even feel it. So that's been what's working for me. I actually only wear it though if I always have it in my travel kit, or I always have it in my nightstand, but I really only wear it on nights where like my partner turns the fan on, or if there's any like airflow in the room, I'll put them on. But if the room like in my house is, in perfect equilibrium, I generally don't always need them, but I always have to have them. And I don't find that like I've tried the pressure with the foam inserts, but for me, it's really just maintaining the moisture seal, which the Eye Seals 4.0 tend to do pretty well for me.
Yeah, it's very much, there's not a lot of product out there that have any kind of measurements or anyway, it's not much better than, it's worse than glasses to actually get the measurement that will fit. So you're right, Justin, just try them all. But I like the foam, and I do have to order another pair, but I don't know, Eye Seals work for me super well, except they didn't keep my eyes closed. And I believe because I'm an side sleeper, it would open up because they're just a little too big for me. But I loved them when I had them first, until I realized what wasn't working. So then in that case, I didn't need to use the humidifier anymore because my humidification's inside. So that relieved a lot of that external fuss.
Yeah, I had a smaller humidifier and then I upgraded, and I have that now. Like I have a funny sort of like shelf above my bed, which is quite handy because then it literally just comes pouring down on my eyes.
It's funny. I tried the humidifier and it never worked.
I feel like it doesn't work for me, but I still put it on.
I had literally my bed was wet. It was like that.
Yeah.
Like there was condensation on all the windows. The bed was wet. But it just doesn't do the trick for me. It's to Judy's point, it has to be a localized humid environment for me. And there's condensation on the inside of the goggles when I take them off in the morning. So I can tell that it's working.
Yeah.
That's
I
kind
did
of
some
very,
tests and I found that 85% humidity is what I'm comfortable in. So Buenos Aires was perfect. I'm probably not going to be going there anytime soon, but my 2 humidifiers in my bedroom created water down the walls, and you can't do that in a maintenance way. But once I discovered my eyes weren't closing, then I did that localized sealing. I'd be up for trying any other product that works.
The other thing I use in the evening, and I'm sure you guys all do this as well, but I have been doing warm compresses in the morning, but more so in the evening. And I got this one called MGD, named after the horrible thing that we probably all have. But yeah, and it's made of, I think it's got like flaxseed and something in it, and you just put it in the microwave for like a minute or so. I usually let it kind of just take the edge off for a second after it's come out of the microwave, and then put it on for like 5 or 6 minutes. I find if I keep it on for any longer, it almost has the reverse effect and begins to feel like it's drying my eyes out. I feel like, yeah, I can understand the logic behind it with sort of like heating up the glands and getting the oils flowing and all of that. And it gives me a little relief for like maybe a couple of minutes after, but it's not, I feel like I'm just trying everything that anyone thinks is good, especially the ones that aren't, that are more natural or easier and not so time consuming to do.
Yeah,
The
what-
mask.
Oh, I
Sorry,
was just
I'll just say the mask was a regular routine of mine, morning and night and through the day, but I found a little electric one. I don't know what it's really for, but it's very small. It just goes right in the eye holes,
Oh, wow.
eye sockets. And I put that on in the morning, let it warm up while I go to the bathroom. And then I sit there just for those 10 minutes and it makes all the difference on the hard mornings.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that's good to know.
At USB.
Oh, wow.
that's exactly what I was going to say is like when I was doing warm compresses, because I've stopped doing them because I feel they were making my eyes worse. The USB one was just so nice because you could sit there in bed, for like 40 minutes,
Yeah.
which, it only doesn't take that long, but it felt really nice on it. And it was just like, and it didn't burn my face
Yeah.
off.
Oh, I'm gonna look that up. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah.
And the other supplement that I use, I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier. I take omega-3s, but the other one that I've been hearing people talk about quite a lot is maqui berry supplement, which is MAQUI, which is a sort of, it's found in South America, I think, this berry, and apparently, again, if you read quite a lot about it, they say that it may help with dry eye, and a lot of people swear by it. So I've started taking that supplement as well in the hope that it'll do something. I'll see.
I had a question, Rebecca, is like, since you get a lot of information here, and for me, sclerals like help to get my life back to like a certain level of normalcy, right? And without them, I don't know what would go. Seems like this would be a great opportunity. I know the one thing is we want to get oxygen and we want to get that to our eye. That's why we can't wear contacts constantly, right? But is there any sort of like, it just seems like if they made a more oxygen permeable, not really worried about vision or anything, lens that you fill up at night that would keep your eyes from getting erosions or something like that, like a scleral for nighttime that kind of addresses those. Is that like a sort of the thing you ever heard of?
So wearing something like a scleral at night, an actual lens in the eye. Yeah, I think the concern there is just the lid's closed over it. And so you still got limited oxygenation. I don't really know. I do know that I was a little nervous mentioning this, but there are in some pretty rare cases out there where people have like a double set of sclerals. If they've got some raging ocular surface disease where in their particular circumstances, their cornea specialist is supportive of this, they'll wear one pair during the day and wear another pair.
Right.
They literally wear them overnight, but that's very rare, just not often recommended. I don't know what all the ins and outs would be of that. It would be so nice to be able to solve it that way, keep our eyes wet overnight, just as we do.
It's funny you say that. I told you the guy I'm seeing is also a researcher, so he sometimes experiments on me as I tend to experiment on myself as well. So I tried sleeping with dailies. He wanted to see how that would, what would happen. Because his hypothesis was that like, if you're sleeping and there's your lids are marginally open, if there's a lens that's protecting the eye, the cornea, could that be helpful? So we experimented a little bit with putting lenses in at night, and like specifically the lenses that you are approved, FDA approved for nighttime usage, which I think there are a couple, but in my experience, it was horrible. Like I woke up and I actually couldn't get the lens out for like 20 minutes. It was really bad.
That's my
I don't
Yeah.
don't recommend trying that.
I've always wondered that when bandaged contact lenses have been suggested, especially because of the erosions. I've always wondered, but aren't my eyes, and I don't know enough about it, but it just seems like, yeah, my eyes are so dry. I'm so worried about them sticking.
So I have a glimmer of hope, which is I know he's working with this other researcher right now who develops the special material, is working on a material similar to Muro that pulls moisture in or traps moisture. And we've talked about, could you coat a contact lens or coat a scleral in this material or this gel that basically pulls in moisture, which could be really interesting, but obviously it's a pipe dream at this point. So maybe in a few years.
We were approached a while back, oh gosh, it's got to be a little over a year now, by a group in Europe that had some grant money and kind of in an interesting program. And they were wanting to tackle a dry eye problem. And our response was, if you want to tackle something that's not being addressed right now, tackle night dry eye, because nobody is talking about this. No manufacturer is making a product for specifically and exclusively for night dry eye. Nobody's trying to understand this problem. And you all kind of echoed that with, how much help has your doctor been specifically about night dry eye? It's just not happening. And COVID set them back a bit, but they are working on it, have some really interesting concepts going on. And we may actually end up doing a happy hour at some point with some people from that team to just get into it more, which would be fun. But that was like my one glimmer of hope in the past year or so, that somebody somewhere is engaging with this. We need companies to engage with these needs. I mean, I love all the iEco night goggles. I have every one of them in my nightstand, and I rotate between them, and sometimes I ditch all of them. But yet for all of those, there's so many hacks we need to do sometimes to make them work for different people. And I just long for there to be a set of tools where one of them at least is going to work for everyone. There's just a lot of gaps out there. We talked about, like with tranquilizers, which is a great product. But yes, if your eyes are set a little closer together, the nose bridge isn't going to work. The only thing you can do is rip it out, use some thread to cinch the eye cups closer together. The pads may be too thick and pressed down on your eyes too much. You may need to trim them down. The strap may be too slippery. You jury rig something, get some elastic, I don't know what. Some people wear a headband over it to hold it on or hold it in place at night. Yeah, like I said, I just rotate between goggles depending on my needs. I'll be using the eye seals more likely in the winter when things are at the worst. One thing I actually like doing is not designed for night dry eye, but I do it anyway. There's this warm compress I adore called Ocutherm. It's expensive, but it's like really nice distributed weight across the whole eye area and conforms to the eyes really nicely. So when I'm in the mood for it, I warm that thing up and put it on, and it, without feeling heavy or pressing on my lids, it holds my lids down. And so I put that on as I go to sleep, and I'm a fresh coat user, so I'll use that before it. And then during the night, I won't tolerate it all night long. I'll rip it off at maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, but it gives me that secure feeling of, I don't have to worry about my eyes for the next 4 hours or something, which kind of takes me back to a question I didn't really have on our list, but I would love to get into this a little bit before we open things up to other people joining in the conversation. And that is just, I think you've all mentioned this in some way or another, the mental health side of night dry eye, the hits that we take, I'm afraid to go to sleep, I'm afraid to open my eyes, the relentlessness of that routine going on night after night. Anybody want to talk more about that?
I mean, from my perspective, I think it's, I think it's sort of how worse it is. I know that some seasons and things like that can obviously contribute to how bad things get with, can affect your dry eye. But at certain points, I can have it under control. I think I'm a relatively, okay during the day sort of person. I'm not irrational in terms of, like, if something's bothering me, obviously you're going to get upset or angry like a normal human reaction to things. But I will say that, the sort of reaching very, very low points with this, where it really does push you to the point of absolute despair. There's when it's something that's so vital and so important in your life that it's, when that's threatened, it really is so alarming to every part of you. It's funny, I just watched, I don't know if anyone else has seen it, and I know it's a different sense, but I just watched The Sound of Metal. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a drummer who's obviously exposed to very loud noises and he loses his sense of hearing. And it's his journey after that. And watching him sort of come to the realization that it was lost, and what he, and his frustration with it. And I think there's one scene where he throws everything around and you can really, really feel his pain. I know it's a different sense, and I know he lost his hearing completely and I still have my vision, but the sort of understanding of what he's going through was very much felt. He definitely should have won the Oscar for it. But it's a really alarming thing. And I think when you lose that sort of control and you're trying desperately to find out more about it and have more understanding and do anything you can to keep it under control, it's just a very alarming thing to sort of to cope with. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what else I could tack on to that. You know, I mean, she says it, just it's hopelessness. And anything, you can get a little bit of hope, you know, any little bit of hope. But like, I know it sucks like we're always seem like we're chasing the next thing, right? Yeah. But every next thing kind of seems like it hasn't worked out, right? Sometimes. But, you know, and it's harder, you're harder on yourself if somebody else is going through it. Every argument that you have for them to pick them back up, you don't give yourself either. And it's hard because it really bleeds into your entire life, your job, and then especially, you know, us that have partners and spouses and whatnot, you know, that effect on them of having somebody that is going through this is really hard on them too. There's a lot of collateral damage around us, in that depression and, you know, not wanting to do anything, just being inside, being desperate, all this other stuff. It's not just localized to us, right? It's like to our families and our friends and stuff like too. That's one of the things thinking this as well.
All right, last question. What do you wish you had known earlier? What advice would you be giving your younger self?
Mine's short and sweet. Don't go and get PRK because you have really, really good eyes. That would be mine. Yeah, obviously I can't change that now.
Be proactive. Don't kind of sit back, try to learn everything you could. And then also listen to how your body feels. And then communicate that to your doctor. Like, and I mean, of course, it sounds like people here we have, but it was when it's gone too far. I was telling Rebecca earlier that, you know, when I first had these, they were just giving me Restasis. Like, it'll sting, you know, and I'm like, okay, it's going to get better. But it was like hitting me full on force, allergic reaction, intense pain. And they're like, I just wasn't listening. I kept continuing it. And I think that probably contributed to that inflammation response. So definitely listen and you know, go after all that information. I kind of just sat back, like, they know what they're doing, which you do, but you have to be informed yourself.
For me, I'll echo what Sean said about, you know, being persistent and looking after things for yourself. Don't be brushed off. It was probably 2.5 years where I know in hindsight I had symptoms, but my eye doctor kept saying, yeah, your vision's fine. Well, my vision was fine, but my vision wasn't fine. I was wearing 2 pairs of glasses. I couldn't focus. I really thought there was something wrong with my brain or my eyes. And he kept saying, no, your eyes are fine. You the test, great, we can't find anything. So really taking it upon yourself and not giving up. Also, I don't know, but I think I should have drank water more all my life. I should have maybe looked after my whole body, the holistic thing a little better had I known what path I might have been going down. I'm glad I didn't have LASIK. I thought about it. I'm glad I didn't. Changing my work environment. Oh my God, it was so dry and so dusty for decades. And maybe looking after my own home environment and keeping allergens down, that sort of thing. Nobody can tell me why this has happened to me, but that's what I would say to my younger self. Just be more vigilant about your general health and don't let things go.
Wow, this is awesome. Justin?
Yeah, I think for me, just to acknowledge that it takes a village to figure it out. So build a good support network for yourself. It's sometimes counterintuitive, but it can be really helpful to go see other types of doctors that can help you on your journey. I started seeing a therapist, which was really helpful. Find a good general GP that is sympathetic, but can help also just keep tabs on your overall health and your mental health I think also be open to going to the extremes and do everything that you can to solve the problem. Because sometimes we think, I almost flew to Texas to go see this guy who's one of the top researchers on neuropathic pain. And I would have done it if I hadn't found my guy here at Stanford. But in the scheme of your life, this is the most excruciating, frustrating thing. It's probably up there, top 3, So take a week off of work and go fly to Texas and have a fun time in Austin or something, or wherever it is that you need to go, and go see this doctor that may change your life. So to reiterate what Sean said, don't just sit back and say, well, there aren't any doctors here that are helpful for me and I've exhausted all my options, because you really haven't. And to reiterate also what Sean said, which is hope is the most powerful thing. You need to hold on to it. And if you can go see somebody somewhere, go do it.
I completely agree with everything you said. It's sort of just keep going. I'm so sorry to have to leave a little early. It was really lovely to meet you all. And whilst I wish we weren't meeting for this common problem, I hope that you all find better solves and that we all get through this. But thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. It's been great having you.
Thanks so much. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Justin, just following up on what you mentioned about the support network, from the last time that you were on Dry Happy Hour in the fall, that was you talked about that in terms of building a team, and I've carried that with me ever since, and into so many conversations with people, just how helpful that can be, where it's not just you and your eye doctor. It's a whole team, as you said. There's a therapist in the picture. There's a primary care doctor. Maybe there's other specialists if there's other health things going on. But talking to all of them, having conversations about what's going on with your eyes, with all of those, having both, because they can hopefully be part of helping you, but it's also spreading the word about the needs that we have, and it's helping equip all of those, to the extent those are medical professionals of various sorts. It helps equip them for the next person that comes along and has this kind of impact, because our numbers are growing, and we have needs, and those are increasing, and our healthcare resources need to gear up and be ready to help people sooner and better through the medical side of all of this. And meantime, we team up with each other and get to pool all our experiences. So I'm just appreciate you guys so much. This is a wealth of just information and experience and wisdom today. It's been really good. Aiden, do we have anybody who's wanting to jump in now?
So I see a couple of people with their hands raised. We have the option of adding some people to the video conversation. So if you'd like to raise your hand, and I'll do that. Linda and Janet, I see your hands are raised. Shirley, you just raised your hand. Let's see. So Linda, I guess I'll add you. Feel free to not. Nice.
Did I see
Okay.
Linda and Shirley? Hi.
Can you hear me now, but you can't see me?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm not sure how to make you guys see me. Are you okay with just hearing me?
That's fine. Or I mean, if you look at the bottom
I-
left of your screen, there might be a video button, but go ahead.
Okay, oh, here, maybe I found it. Okay, found it. Yeah, my question is, anyone who uses any kind of night goggles, I use Tranquilize and I'm happy with them. But what I do find is after 2 or 3 nights of using them, it kind of flares up my blepharitis. Does anyone else have to deal with that?
Yeah, I actually have sometimes when I wear my goggles, it almost, I don't know if this is like a thing or not, but I feel like it almost creates like too much moisture. And actually like my lower lid is all puffy and red, and usually goes away in like 12 hours. And I find that it's like, if I'm not sure if it's like I'm not cleaning my the goggles well enough or what. My doctor recommended putting some what's called like Aquaphor, like Vaseline basically on there. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's blepharitis. I've had a different issue, but I think you know, I've experienced something similar.
Yeah, what I do is I use the Tranquilize for maybe 3 nights and then I take a night off, but I just wondered if anyone else was dealing with that issue.
This might be helpful. I did over some time after using Tranquilize, I had lid problems. So I take the pad and I put it fresh saran wrap on it. And so nothing is ever touching my skin other than the outside foam. So I feel like it keeps it, you know, there's an extra moisture thing happening there, but it keeps it clean. So
Okay, well, yeah, I could certainly try that. I appreciate the tip for sure.
There's a lot of people that use plastic wrap over the tranquilized foam for one reason or another. Some people have got skin sensitivities to the viscoelastic foam on there. I talked with someone recently also who I don't remember the exact reasons. It's been a couple of weeks, but she was rotating between the quartz silicone shield and Tranquilize. I was like, she just couldn't use for more than 2 or 3 days because it was causing one particular problem, but the other one was causing another problem, but rotating, she kind of found a balance there.
Okay, well, yeah, I could certainly try that as well. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Shirley, welcome.
Shirley, we can't hear you. I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Did I do it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shirley. I'm in Seattle. I now have just a few minutes because filling fell out of my tooth today and my dentist is going to wait for me till 5 o'clock. But I wanted to be part of your group very much. I think I may have encountered Rebecca years ago. I live in Seattle, Rebecca, and I think you're over in Paulsbo, or is that right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And my eyes tear all day long. I have to take off my glasses every 30 seconds and blot my eyes. I have taped my eyes shut at night. The tape to use that I love is Mepitac, Mepitac. But if you tape both eyes, then you can't see anything. And so if you need to get up to go to the bathroom, you have to untape one eye. It is a little bit helpful, but my eyes sting and tear in the daytime and tear at night. And that's probably my biggest issues. My history is that I did have thyroid eye disease. When I was 19, I had Graves' disease. And when I was almost 55, I got thyroid eye disease with a vengeance. And I have had several eye procedures, many eye procedures. But I would love to be part of this group. I would just love to be one of you. I am one of you.
You are one of us. Yeah, thank you for coming. I know your name. I think we have talked at some point in the past. And yes, so we were doing a panel today, but we have a regular support group next Friday. Actually, whenever
I'll-
we do it. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
3 p.m. Pacific. I'll put a link to the calendar.
Right.
Oh, I understand what Aiden said now. We're having a panel today, so you need to wait. I get it. I understand. I didn't get the panel part. I thought it was just a general discussion, and I thought, me. But, it rules my life. This eye situation rules my life. It's very, 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 very difficult. And I wish I had been doing this with you for the last multi-years, but I'm here now. And if you put me on a list so I hear from you, I will block out Fridays at 3. And I do have a question. Is it generally 3 to 4 or 3 to 4:30 or something?
Almost always 3 to, I mean, we usually go until 4:30, sometimes longer. Almost always at that time on Fridays. Sometimes we change up the times so that we can catch some people whose work schedule makes it impossible for them to be there, or we make it earlier so that some of the Europeans can join.
Oh, wonderful.
I had just a quick thought when you're talking about taping the lids down and not being able to see. One of the things I do is I'll tape my right eye is my worst eye. So, and I love the Mepitac tape. That's what I use as well. I'll tape the right eye down and then I'll put a clear goggle over it. So I'm getting some protection for the left eye, but I can still see if I get up.
Oh, thank
Night.
you. Okay, I'm a side sleeper. Can you manage a goggles with side sleeping?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently,
Not
Linda.
everyone does, but many do. Yeah. Was that you, Linda, saying, are you a side
Yes.
sleeper?
Yeah, I'm a side sleeper, and I found that I can do that with the tranquilized just fine.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 2 Rachels here. We've got Rachel McCallum, who is a regular here. It's great. We also got Rachel Rogers. Forgive me if I'm just not remember. I can't remember if you've been with us on one of these before or not, but welcome either way.
Who did you want to talk first?
I'll have Rachel Rogers start, so because she's new, I think. Sorry.
I wanted to say to Shirley, I wanted to ask Shirley, have you tried the sclero lenses for the constant tearing?
No, I didn't know anything about
I've
that.
heard that the sclero lenses really helps with that. Wouldn't you say, Rebecca? That
Probably
that-
a little bit what's going on, but I do know people where that's been a big help. Yeah.
So that's just one thing, but I see that Justin is off now, but I wanted to give a lot of support and just really appreciated him being so transparent with all that he's been through. I did I wanted to ask specifically regarding nighttime dry eyes. Has anyone experienced using the Refresh Plus drops or any type of lubricating drops? I use the ones that, well, I used to use the Refresh Plus on a daily basis, and I begun to have more of an issue with dry eyes at night. And I almost think that it was because I was overusing the drops during the day. And what do the drops have in them? Well, the drops have saline. And the more saline in your eyes, of course, the more salt. And as soon as I cut back, it was a combination. I cut back on the drops, and I also had the lippy flow, which really was a big help for me. And circling back to what Justin had said, how he discovered a doctor who was in Texas, and he was about ready to make a trip to Texas to see him. I just really, I think it's great to go that extra step and do whatever you can, see as many doctors as you can to get to the bottom of whatever dry eye issues you have. Just don't settle for, oh, you know, the issue that you're having, well, that's normal. If you know it's not normal, truly not normal, then press on. And that's when I reached out to Rebecca, and she told me to reach out to not just the optometrist I was seeing, but to an ophthalmologist, a surgeon, which I did. And that was so helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad.
An ophthalmic surgeon. But recently, I did fly to New York to be fitted for some prosthetic scleral lenses, which have also helped with my very chronic red eyes.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So you've got a successful fit and you're rolling with those, or are you still in the fitting process for that?
I'm still sort of in the fitting process, but these are, I don't know if you remember our conversation exactly, but I asked you, Rebecca, if they can make lenses to change the color of your eyes, why can't they just reverse it and make the scleral part of your eye, which many individuals with red eyes, well, with dry eyes, they suffer with red eyes. Why can't they flip it? And for someone who, before laser surgery, the whites of my eyes were very white. And after laser surgery 6 years ago, I've been dealing with it. So this particular doctor in New York does this. It's pretty amazing, but I've only been fitted. It was like 2 weeks ago, so it's a trial and error process. And I know that you had a segment on dry eyes and your appearance, and I missed that, but I just wanted to add add that Justin, he's like, do whatever it takes to make you whole again. And I think that's good advice.
We have such individual journeys, and yet we do have so many things in common on that pathway. And it's a struggle sometimes to figure out, for some people, it's going to be needing encouragement to press on because there is more to be had. There is more to try. There is more hope for getting better. For others, sometimes it's kind of grappling with, at what point do I just sort of accept this particular level that I'm at and say, this is adequate for me, for my quality of life needs right now, and is better than fighting more and working more at that. I think some people have to grasp that stage as a better thing for them, while others need to get better than they are to feel like they're in that stable place, which is okay to go on with. Either way, I would just, go back to Sean's words about hope. That's where it is at the end of the day. Hope for that we get our needs met, whatever, because we have such unique individual needs for where our eye pain is at, where our work needs, our relationship needs, everything. We've just got so much uniqueness to our journeys. But I love that, just the encouragement to, especially don't settle for a statement like that's normal. No, when it just being able to trust yourself that what you're experiencing and what you believe about it, this is real, and not get beaten down by what the medical world might be telling you. Sometimes it's just not right. All right, before we wrap up here, Rachel McCallum, love to hear you.
I didn't really want to take up too much time because I talk a lot all the time. But Sean, did I hear correctly that your dry eye was a result of some treatment for leukemia when you were younger?
Yeah.
I was actually diagnosed with a brain tumor when I was 5, and so because of that, I have nerve damage, which causes my left eye not to close properly. And so I'm doing a lot of advocacy and working on making sure that childhood cancer survivors get the follow-up help that they need, because we all have these like after effects and everything. So I'd love to be able to connect with you later if Rebecca or Aiden can give me your contact info.
Yeah, totally.
And just follow up with you on that.
No, you're absolutely right. Long-term follow-up. It's interesting. It's like once you're out and considered cured, some things might come down the line. This is not eye related, but because of the radiation treatment, I stopped producing a lot of saliva too, which means I got my entire mouth crowned, because of the teeth were rotting out. And that's just something that was, 10 something years past my end of my treatment, and that's kind of the eye thing too, that was way further down the line. So yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
So I didn't mean to steal the spotlight and turn it into something that's totally unrelated to dry eye stuff. But I just wanted to add at the end to make sure, because I can get connected later so we can have a longer conversation. Because in this setting of the webinar, you can only chat to all presenters or all, whatever. You can't really talk to individuals. So yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. No, this is great. I mean, it's perfect to me. This is what it's all about. It's about connections, right? So.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, in this, when you have it set to have a panel, it's you can go to the chat and you can only go to all panelists or all panelists and all attendees. But whereas in our regular thing, when we're just having a casual chat, it usually lets you talk to each individual attendee if you want to.
Got it. So
snarky side conversations.
Anybody who wants to connect with somebody else who was on one of these, just reach out to, Aiden or me, and, as long as both sides are agreeable, we can always share contact information then.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I have plenty to say about the dryer stuff, but you've heard from me before, so.
Always want to hear more, but it is 4:30, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, but we'll be back next week at 3:00 with just the regular support group. So anybody who shows up, we can just get right into conversation from the get-go. So love to see any of you there. I know most of them are gone, but just so grateful to all the panelists today. Sean and Judy and Justin and Annabelle and Aiden for making all this work from a technical standpoint. And thanks, everybody. We will hopefully see you again soon.
Thanks.